everybody. Welcome to This Is Not About Your Body. I am Jessie Nealand, and today I have a special guest. This is Angel Austin, who is the creator and organizer of the Sacred Space for Fat Bodies experience, which is based around the idea that everyone deserves to access self-care, rest, and the ability to feel their very best, no matter what size they are. And the Sacred Space seeks to foster change by offering a safe, luxurious, inclusive, accommodating, and customized experience for the very fat person. Also, Angel just recently did a blog post for, I do an email series every Tuesday to my list called Transparent Tuesday. And once a month, I have a guest author, and Angel was my guest author this month. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that post as well, because I got a ton of feedback. So welcome, Angel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm
and thank you
stoked
for
to have you.
introducing me, because every time somebody asks me to introduce myself, I'm like, oh,
It is really hard to do.
myself.
So I'm going to have you tell a little bit about your story, kind of like how you
Okay.
came to create the Sacred Space for Fat People. But I figure, everybody should know who you are a little bit before that. So,
Yes, awesome.
yeah, tell me about that.
I tell everyone when we talk about this that sacred space for me was a selfish endeavor, because I'd been out in the world trying to get self-care services for myself and had significant trouble because of fat phobia and weight stigma. Things like going to get my feet done once, and I got up in the chair, like
Yeah.
you do, to put my feet down in the basin, and the owner of the establishment came running from the back, was like, no, 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 please get out of my chair, you're gonna break it. And like, it's a full packed shop, yes. And I was
Like for a pedicure,
mortified.
like one of those pedicure chairs?
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
yes.
Okay.
I was mortified. Friday afternoon, everybody's off work, getting ready for the weekend. I just wanted to get my feet done.
Yeah.
And so he gets one of the people there to get one of those like foot fixer things, like from Walgreens or whatever. And they come and do my feet. I paid the same money.
Sure. Yeah.
And so things like that, things like worrying about capacity for the tables, if I want to get a massage and that type of thing. Even with healthcare, I had situations where I fell one time at a job where I was working, and I had to go to workman's comp to the doctor. And the table, apparently, I had no idea, had a 350-pound weight limit. And the nurse was like, please don't lean on, I wasn't even sitting on the table. She was like, please don't even lean on the table. Like, she was just angry at me because I was fat.
Oh
So,
my
I mean,
God.
situations like that, and so many, like, people can't wear the robes, can't use the
Yeah.
towels. So I wanted to create a space for people that were like me, super fat and fin fat people, to come in and just really feel comfortable, feel pampered, feel enveloped by comfort and softness, and not feel like they had to just take the leftovers or whatever they can find to fit them, that type of thing.
Oh my God, absolutely. And I love this so much. I'm going to have you define infinifat
Okay.
for me, for anybody who hasn't heard that word. And I think it's really, really important that this is understood. So tell us
Yes.
about that.
So my good friend Ash Fatlip on Instagram.
Ash, that's so cool.
Yeah. um, she's been like, oh my gosh, a lifesaver for me in fat liberation. But I think there had been kind of a size spectrum kind of thing bumping around, and she came up with a kind of a gauge for determining the size of a person's body without using weight, or all those type of measurements that we've known of in the past. So
The
she just used like
medicalized terms.
Say again?
Like without using the medicalized,
Yes,
stigmatized
yes,
terms.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was like just use torrid sizes, so like a small fat is a size 0, and a infinite fat would be like a 6 or 7X, kind of like a range of kind of determining a person's size for the purposes of talking about size. And infinite fat would be the far, I guess you'd say, right, or however you want to put it together.
Yeah.
The largest of
Yeah.
that spectrum. And so it would be that we would be the ones that have the most difficult time finding clothes, finding things that we can use out in the world, finding seating, finding anything, because the world is just not made for us.
Right. And I think
Hmm.
this is so important because it's very easy in a world that, there's fat phobia and weight stigma are just rampant. It's very
Hmm.
easy to think of it as being like, oh, I have a fat friend. So, I've heard about the fat experience, or I'm fat myself. I know all about the fat experience, but
Hmm.
that's often coming from or was sort of like circling around small fat.
Yes.
And there is huge differences in access and as well as actual treatment and stigma. So I think it's so
Yes.
important that we have words to start discerning, like, these
Hmm.
things are not the same. They are both bad. There is still
Hmm.
stigma, and
Yeah.
there is such a bigger need for this kind of work over here.
And it's also important to see the largest or fattest fat people as something besides what you see on My 600-Pound Life, or
Oh
The
yeah,
Biggest
yeah,
Loser, or all these other shows where we're stereotyped and kind of pigeonholed into this perception of what fatness is.
yeah,
um it's not true.
yeah,
It's not always the case that I can't eat,
right.
however much or whatever. People look at me and would presume, that
Mm-hmm.
I got fat because I ate da 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 da, or I do this
Yeah,
routinely. It's not, fatness is not a monolith,
yeah,
especially when you get to the infinite fat, super fat. We're not just all the same people, and we're not all fat for the same reasons. And
right.
and honestly, it doesn't matter why we're
It
fat.
doesn't
We're
matter.
human,
Yeah.
right? We are human. We love. We all the things that any person in any size body experiences, we experience those things
Yeah.
too in a larger body.
So this is something I put in as like the title of my email that I
Mhm.
sent from you is this should not be controversial.
Yes.
That people in the fattest fat bodies deserve the same basic care, respect, and access as
Mhm.
everybody else. This should not be controversial, but I think even in the God, unfortunately, even in the body positivity space, certainly in the wellness and good God, in the diet culture and fitness space, there is this idea of like, okay, well, I can understand a little bit, right? Like everyone has a little bit of whatever, but there's like this boundary. Like I'll respect people up to a certain point, which means Infinifat is like beyond it.
I'm
It
so
just,
glad you said that. I'm
yeah.
so glad that you perceive that, because that is the one thing I think it almost hurts more,
Mm,
experiencing fat phobia within body positivity and within fat liberation, because you would
sure.
anticipate that people would understand.
That you'd be
Like,
safe
you're
there.
in it
Yeah.
doing the work, right? But you
Oh,
would be surprised how often you're deemed as not an acceptable fat.
God,
Like,
I can
you like,
imagine.
we're
Yeah.
fat plus, like just for example,
Hmm.
the term plus size frustrates me so much, because it's like a blanket statement, of a person that is larger, right?
Hmm.
But plus size, I don't see myself as plus size.
Hmm.
Not what it's perceived to be in the world, right?
Right.
Like, plus size
Which
is
is
such a
like
blanket term.
regular thin people, but is slightly bigger than a supermodel. That's basically what plus size
Yeah.
is anyway.
Yeah, because plus size, you think of clothing, you think of marketing for,
Hmm.
plus size influencers. You know,
Hmm.
um, there was a situation that happened recently where an influencer, which again, you would think that they would know, right?
Mm.
They were developing a product for fat people. Fat people. They sent the product to my friend who is in Finifat. That product didn't work for her because it was
Like a
never
body
tested for
positive
her.
kind of thing.
It was for fat people.
Wow. So not like to lose weight though. It was like
No, no,
intended
no,
to
no, no,
just,
no.
okay,
It
got
was
it.
something that was supposed to make our lives easier.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It wasn't tested on Infinifat
No,
bodies.
no.
Uh-huh.
So my thing is that, and I wrote about this recently because it's so heavy on my heart that within fat liberation, I mean, I kind of anticipated it. I don't know. I want to have co-conspirators. I want us to have
Yeah.
people who are in straight size bodies, who understand and perceive, like you just did,
Yeah.
about things that are happening, even within the people that are doing the work
Hmm.
in these groups. But it just is so rough, because it's like you're almost there. Like, why didn't you just ask? Why didn't you test? Why didn't you check? Why didn't you? And that's why I feel the work that I do that's very specific, that is very
Yeah.
like focused on just super fat and infinite fat people is so
Mm-hmm.
important because it's so hard for us to advocate for ourselves. It's
Yeah.
hard to like possess any like real agency because we have to fit wherever we go. Like we have to try to make it work. We have to
Yeah.
ask the question. So anytime anyone in a smaller fat body or a straight size person asks me, what can I do to help? I say advocate for us, ask questions. If even if we're not with you, even if we don't have plans to go out
Yeah.
together, for
Yeah.
example, if you go somewhere and you're like, you know what, that wouldn't work for my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do something about this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
does this work for all bodies? You know, or if somebody claims that everybody's welcome, or you know, this is like these
Yes.
clothes are fit everybody, we're making clothes for everybody, and you go up to a 3X, ask the question,
Yeah.
send the email, you
Mm-hmm.
know, advocate for us. I was telling someone yesterday I got the opportunity to speak for a class, college class, sociology class, and I was so encouraged because the young people in the class were asking really amazing questions. And one of the girls was like, how can I help my fat friends? You know,
Mm.
how can I, like, if you're making plans, you want to go out to a club and go out to eat. What I do as a fat person, I have to do reconnaissance, right? I have to like try to figure
Right.
out what's going on and if I could fit there, if my body
Uh-huh.
works there, if I can. I had a situation where I went out to eat with some friends and there was a bar and we were waiting to be seated. I can't get up on a high top chair or like a bar seat,
Like a
right?
stool
It's really
thing.
hard for
Yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was an armchair that was nearby. It makes me laugh so much. And I'm just like, I'm at a place in my life where I'm like, pull the armchair up to the bar. I'm sitting down. Get over yourself. You might not like it. People might look at me. I don't care. That's
Oh,
me. That's where
yeah.
I'm at, where I am. I don't care. But
Yeah.
think about other people,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
even people in smaller bodies than myself. They're either not going to go, they're going to be embarrassed, they're going to be uncomfortable the whole time, they're going to want to leave. You
Yeah.
know, it's just a battle just to like do regular things. Some of us have some money. Some of us, you know, we're not
Yeah.
just all at home in bed. Some of us are, and that's just fine. But some of us are, you know, entrepreneurs. We're
Yeah.
creatives. Like we have minds, we have, you know, desires and thoughts. You know, we have sex. You know, we're human beings. You know, and we just want to be able to live.
Yeah.
And I am mercilessly trolled. Like Ash and I catch hell, you know, on different sites. Ash has been doxxed, like
Mm.
horrible, horrible things. There was even a situation where um, people were wagering on when, you know, different fat people would be gone, you know. And it's just like, really?
Oh my
Like
God.
what is it about me? You know what?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
about it a lot, and I think a lot of it is that they hate our audacity. You know, they hate our audacity to like
Yeah.
be like the worst case scenario, with the thing that everybody doesn't want to be, more than being disabled or more than being,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. The worst thing you could think of, and fat is like right up there. And
Oof.
we have the nerve to like celebrate our bodies and to
Yeah.
smile and enjoy ourselves and dance and, you know, say we
Yeah.
want to go somewhere and want to be comfortable and be accommodated. They hate that because it's the world has set it up to that you're not acceptable unless you fit a
Uh-huh.
certain you know, body size, a certain um way that, you know, we have determined that is right, that is moral, that
Yeah.
is good, that is acceptable to society, and we
It's
don't fit that.
it's like identity shattering, like
Yes.
self-worth shattering to someone to see a person in a very fat body
Hmm.
having a good life, because that's
Yeah.
like not supposed to happen when you've
Yeah.
created your entire identity around like
Yes.
superiority.
Hmm.
You just literally, it's like all you can do is buffer and get mad. That's it. That's
Yep.
or go do
How
a whole
dare
bunch of
you?
unlearning.
Yes. And then there's all the, you know, well, you're costing, you know, taxpayers money and,
Oh
you
my
know,
God,
all
yeah.
these different stats and things like that. And it's just, it's all been set up to be truth, and it's
Yeah.
not.
So I want to go back to something you said, which I think is
Hmm.
so great, is this
Hmm.
idea that if anybody in any size body happens to have a fat friend and you guys are going out, a very
Mhm.
good thing to do is to think of your friend and check and do some recon, on their behalf, whatever,
Mhm.
before making the invite, right? And that does feel like that should just be standard practice, basic respect. I realize that it's not, but I am going to say that because I feel like the next level of it is considering fat people, even if you didn't have a friend who is meeting you out tonight,
Yes.
everywhere you go.
Yes.
Because if you see fat people as human, which is this thing that is
Mhm.
weirdly controversial, but like
Yeah.
there it is, like they are human people who deserve the same kind of human experiences. And when you actually really let that in, the
Mhm.
horrifyingness of the fact that they are not allowed that access, it really is on us to write the letter, the email, to
Mhm.
ask the manager, to, whatever it is, wherever you are, because there
Yeah.
are fat people there too.
I think the rub is that the struggle, and that this is a thing that it's like the place that people have to go, even with anti-racism and all the anti-isms,
Mhm.
is you have to consider if there's any resistance to that, to that um, advocating for
Yeah.
someone, if there's resistance or you're questioning it, um, a lot of it has to do with, again, this idea that, like you were saying earlier, there's a limit, right? Like you can be
Mm,
fat enough, but when you're this, like, what did you do? What did
yeah.
you do? And sometimes there's still that resistance that people feel,
Yeah.
is that, really, if they cared about themselves, you
Yeah.
know, they wouldn't be that fat.
So to me, the analogy here that I find is very easy, well, particularly with like white women, thin white women with a lot of body privilege, is very, very easy to draw the analogy here to like, no woman is asking for it unless, and then there's always this like, let's put it in a really extreme scenario. And then I'm a little
Yep.
questionable. And then I wouldn't stand up for it. And then I wouldn't
Hmm.
go to bat for that woman.
Hmm.
And I feel like we've made way more progress around that than body size, obviously. But
Hmm.
like that is something that can allow you to connect to the fact that it's like, oh, there really literally can't be an unless in this
Hmm.
sentence if you meant the first part. You just can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you
And
say
you are,
but or unless,
Mhm.
you essentially negated the whole,
Yeah, the whole thing. You say, this
yeah, the
isn't
whole
a value
thing.
to me once it
Yeah.
becomes really inconvenient or confusing.
And you have
Um,
to be able to unpack, even fat people have to be able to unpack, that fat phobia in themselves, in ourselves. I mean,
of
even in
course.
myself, I'm fat phobia is so hard because it's almost like you're telling somebody they're racist if you say they're fat phobic. But we're all fat phobic. I'm fat
Yeah.
phobic. I have to mentally adjust all the time if I'm in the world and
Yeah.
say, because the feeling comes, the thought
Of
comes,
course.
like, dang, I can't ride in my car comfortably, or I have to literally sometimes out loud say, no, Angel, there should be cars that are comfortable for you. The
Yeah.
manufacturer of this vehicle should have known there'd
Such a
be people
huge
of
difference in
different sizes.
perspective,
Yes,
though.
that shift, but it's
Yeah. What did
always
I do
happening.
wrong to, you know what? They're making a mistake here.
Yes, they're at
Yeah.
fault. And that's the thing that has been so difficult for me to convey to people like myself, and the reason why I keep talking about it and talking about it, because at some point, and I'm writing about this now, we have to learn to create sacred space wherever we are. We have to learn to advocate for ourselves. And it's not fair. It's not
Yeah.
fair.
Right.
It's not fair. It's not comfortable. It's not right. But to see the change that we want as fat people, I was telling someone yesterday that I have made a decision that the trolling and the threats and all the other stuff is just a part of my life now.
Mm.
And I don't like that. It's not fair, right?
No, it's
Or,
not.
but I know the visibility, and the things that I say and the things that are so important in this space are changing things, and
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
time in history, that whenever something like this was done, it was disruptive. It
Yeah.
pissed people off.
Yeah.
People have died. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
I understand that this is my purpose in my life. This is who I am. And I know that um I'm still here.
Yeah.
because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I spent my whole life trying to shrink my body,
Uh-huh.
my whole life from a young child.
Yeah.
And I'm still here, finally able to say I love my body just as it is. Do I have pain? Do I have struggles? Do
Sure.
I have, yes, this is my body. This is who I am. I can't deny that. I have, I'm disabled. I have
Mm-hmm.
situations and things that I deal with like any other human being,
Yeah.
but I love myself. I love my body. I make no apologies for it. Not anymore.
I
Not
love it.
anymore. And I want to help all of us, not just, people that I want to help, want to advocate for us, but people who look like me
Mm-hmm.
to be
Yeah.
able to create that sacred space. And I was going to say, when I created Sacred Space, I created it for the massage and the self-care. And I had to take a pivot because it was like in the heart of COVID. And I couldn't get people to
Right.
come to my house. And I wouldn't
Of
want
course.
to, I want people to be safe and feel safe
Yeah.
and secure. So it kind of took a pivot to the advocacy and to the activism and things like that. And I'm kind of glad because it's so needed. And I have
Yeah.
kind of blossomed and began to really understand like the depth of what this is all about and what it's done for me as a person and the connections that I've made and the people that I've been
Yeah.
able to meet and share and the people that message me and tell me, people who are not even in bodies as large as mine that say, I really needed to hear what you said
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really needed to feel that. I needed to understand that I had been struggling with this thing. And
Yeah.
when you said that, it's like a light bulb came off, came
Right.
on in my head. And that's what I live for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about, because that's what makes the change. Men who are like, fat and, like felt bad about themselves and didn't want to show themselves and were embarrassed because they wanted the physique and all that, they're like cheering me on, and we're cheering each
Mm.
other on and we're moving and doing all kind of cool stuff online and in
Yeah.
front of the world and encouraging people. That is so, it's worth it all to me.
Oh
It's worth it
God.
all.
I love that. I mean, this is why I'm so like excited to have you on here and so
Yeah.
excited to like introduce you to people because it's just so incredible what you're doing. And I want to point out like
Mhm.
this thing that you have, this level of self-acceptance and self-love that you've gotten to is part of why you're able to be here,
Yes.
forming that kind of resilient identity on the internet, taking trolls and like letting it wash off your back as best you can. Like somebody who hasn't gotten that yet can't put them in the put themselves
Yeah.
in the position to be this visible, which means that we are only ever going to hear from people who have done like a shit ton of this kind of
Yeah.
internal work to like
Yeah.
clear out that internalized fat
Yeah.
phobia and stuff. And it means that you saying something like, speaking up, advocating, either in your own life or publicly like this, it is not something most people can even fathom.
Yeah.
But we never are exposed to like the humanity, the pain of people in super fat or infinity fat
Mhm.
bodies who are still battling their own shame about it and would
Yeah.
never speak up in a group of people or would
Yeah.
never advocate, the people who like are afraid to ask for the accommodations they need and would just
Mhm.
go home that night instead of sitting in this fabulous armchair at the bar, right? Like
Mhm.
I think that's so important to recognize for anyone who isn't in that kind of
Yeah.
size body is like, we are only ever hearing about it because someone did all the work anyway. Like they got there anyway, and that allows them to take up space so that we
Yeah.
can, I mean, there's still little representation, but like
Yeah.
we have zero representation of people who
Mhm.
haven't gotten there.
Mhm.
We
That's
just,
true.
because the shame keeps us silent. It keeps people silent. That's what shame does.
It does. And I have had to really kind of stretch myself because there are people who are, we're all in different places, in our
Yeah.
journey and our learning and unlearning. And I had a situation where a friend of mine was like a brilliant writer, brilliant poet. I mean, amazing. And they were saying, I need to go speak at this place and I need you to look at chair recommendations. I want to buy a chair to take with me because I don't know what's there. And I I got so I got hot. Like my head got hot because I was like, I wanted to be understanding and I
Yes.
wanted to be caring and I didn't want to just dismiss her feelings
Yeah.
and her fear and all the stuff that was going on. Like, I'm just imagining, her, already being nervous about presenting her, like, her heart,
Yeah.
her
So
work,
vulnerable. Yeah.
and having to worry about her seat
Yeah.
and actually purchasing one to take with her. And I said, I kind of like gave it a beat, and I was like, the onus is on them to make sure you have what you need, right? They've asked you to come. They're likely
Mm-hmm.
paying you. They've invited you.
Yeah.
It's on them, the venue, whoever's putting it on, to make sure you have what you need.
Yeah.
She said, yes, I know, but I just can't do it today.
Oh gosh.
And it
Oh,
broke me because I understood it.
right. Yeah. The fatigue of it all. Oh,
I
that is
mean, the
heartbreaking.
intersection of being, an infinite person and, whatever, however you identify and all that, that's hard enough. Being a Black infinite woman, like trying to maneuver through the world with all that we're already having to deal with,
Yeah.
and trying to express and survive and create and have an outlet and just be
Yeah.
human,
Yep.
and have to still think about all these little stupid things, And it taught me a real lesson, because I'm like, just go in there and tell them, blah, blah, blah. And it's not always like that.
Right.
I have to be able to meet people where they are
Yeah.
and help guide them and show them
Mm.
and be an example. Even if I can't ever talk to them, if I never communicate with them one-on-one, just to be an example,
Yeah.
of what it means to show up for yourself completely, fully as you are, with no regrets and no
Yeah.
apologies.
It's such a both and to be able to hold
Mm-hmm.
like you absolutely deserve to advocate for your needs and have other people meet them. And sometimes that is just so exhausting.
Yeah.
And it is not a failure to say, I can't do
Mm-mm.
it today.
No.
So tell me, this may be a far too complicated question, but tell
Uh,
me how you got to this point of self-acceptance and self-love. Like if someone was listening to this going, well, that's really great for Angel and all, but like, I hate my body. I don't even know where to begin or whatever. Like how do you understand the journey that you went on to get there or to get here?
honestly, I had an injury and um was on my back for like a couple of years. Like, I was forced.
Mm-hmm.
I had a choice to either just be like, you know what, I quit. I quit everything. I'm tired. Um, I said all the fat phobic things you could say to yourself, all the things anybody ever told me. That's why I think some of it rolls off my back, because nobody can tell me anything I haven't already told myself, anything I haven't already
Mm,
considered myself. All the lies,
yeah.
I consumed it all my life. All the reasons why I was not enough, all the reasons why I would never be enough until I shrank my body, the things that the wagers and the promises I used to make to myself about what I do once I did ABCD.
Yeah.
I've gone through all of that. And when I was on my back, I just decided I wanted to live. And
Wow.
maybe a year or two before that, I met Ash Fat Lip, who is also in Fat, extremely unapologetic, like
Yeah, she's a badass.
a beast, you know. And I was looking at her and I
Yeah.
was like, what? You mean to tell
Wow.
me you can be fat like that and love yourself, show your body, show the world, get in people's faces, talk your stuff, whatever you got to do, and not back down, and
Wow.
say what you want and be infinite?
It's no
You can
wonder
do
you've taken
that?
up the call. You had a direct example of like one representation
Yes.
and it
That's all
changed
it
your
took for
life.
me.
And
That's
now
all
you
it
get
took
to
for
be
me.
that for other people. Oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And so as I watched her move and advocate, and she invited me on her podcast one day, And I sat with her and I cried
Oh,
and I poured all of my heart out. And you know what? And it sounds so hokey to say this, but I feel like my life is like, like BC and AD. Like my life
yeah.
is,
There's a before and
pre-Ash
after.
and
Yeah.
post-Ash.
Oh my God, that's
You know what I mean?
amazing. Yeah, I
Because
do.
that that connection with her has forever changed my life.
Oh,
I'm like, you can do this and like not run and cry and hide
yeah.
and be human and still be sad and have the gamut of emotions that any human being has and
Hmm.
still come up for air and say, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here. And I was like, I could do this.
Yeah. I think something else that I love about the way that you talk about this is there's sort of an archetype, particularly again in the body positive community,
Mm-hmm.
an archetype that is sort of like the spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity around like body love. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love every inch of my body, or I unconditionally love my body. I think, the reason I moved to neutrality instead of positivity around that space is because it makes room for all of the range of human emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's a much more powerful representation to see somebody who's like experiencing that full human range rather than just I love it all the time, which I think is really distancing. It pushes people away. It doesn't
Yeah.
inspire them because they're like, well, that feels impossible. I think it
Yeah.
just breeds shame, right? So you and Ash is another great example of that. Just
Mm-hmm.
really owning the full humanity of the
Yeah.
experience is so beautiful.
Yeah. There have been many days that and even like starting to move and do different things that I did for different reasons before,
Mm-hmm.
being made aware and beginning the process of
Yeah,
unlearning.
yeah.
That's been a whole new discovery. I worked with somebody named Deb that does real amazing work around neural pathways and learning how to handle pain and things like that.
Oh, so cool.
And then beginning to just move and enjoy movement for the sake of movement because it made me feel good,
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
made my body feel good,
Mm-hmm.
um, which was totally new for me and scary, because it was always attached to a number, always attached to, you
Yep.
know, weighing myself and freaking
Yeah.
out about the fact that I'd exercised all week, and
Uh-huh.
nothing changed. I got out of that loop
Yeah.
finally, and that was really empowering as well because I felt my body again. One of the
Yeah.
things that I say on my website, a friend of mine, Adrian, that passed. I don't know if you remember Adrian Bennett, but
Mm.
they passed recently. But they instilled in me when I first started setting up Sacred Space. Um, they really helped me kind of pull out what I wanted to say, my mission, my vision, all things that I
Yeah.
wanted to do. And I remember one of the things that we discussed was I wanted to help people remember themselves again.
Yeah, I
When
saw
you're a
that.
fat person, you become so detached and
Mm,
dissociated from your body
sure.
because you feel like your body's harmed you. You feel like your body's not unworthy, that
Hmm.
doesn't belong in the world. All the things that you
Yeah.
process that have kind of culminated over your life, through your lived experiences, what you've come to believe about your body. And
Yeah.
so moving it, the pain, chronic pain that you might have in it, all those make you feel like your body is not a part of who you are
Yeah.
anymore. It's just something you're dragging around that's kept you limited and it keeps you oppressed
Yeah.
and down.
I can't tell you how many
And
clients
so
use language like if I could just like cut it off, I would, that kind of thing. It's
exactly,
complete disconnect. Yeah.
exactly. And so beginning to feel my body again with movement,
Mm,
feeling um feeling things that I felt before, when I used to move, like getting
yeah.
stronger, but in a free way, in a way that just made me feel so empowered and so good. And like making time to do that as
Yeah.
self-care, that has changed a lot for me too. And
Amazing.
that's another thing that I really want to convey to people. And that's why I do the move and dance and sit and
Yeah.
movement Mondays and all that type of stuff, because no matter what body you're in, movement is for you. Your body is yours. Your body is for you. It's um, a beautiful thing. It's
Yeah.
miraculous. Our bodies are wondrous, right? But we have come to hate them, or like you said, like we want to cut them off. And, it doesn't, we don't have to do that.
Right.
We don't have to feel that about ourselves.
Yeah.
We can, it's just a body. You know what I'm saying? It's just, we're a human being.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say anything that the shape or the size or the condition of our body says nothing about who we really are,
Absolutely.
and I just want people to remember that.
I love that about the remembering, like sort of
Hmm.
a coming home feeling.
Yes.
I do a lot of reconnection work with my clients because something I've always thought was really interesting is
Hmm.
trauma itself, for any reason, often leads to a disconnection with the body. So, like,
Yes.
you could get in a car accident, having nothing to do with like
Hmm.
interpersonal relationship stuff, and or go into a freeze response, or end up disconnected, dissociated, whatever it is,
Hmm.
and it will still be incredibly difficult to come back to the body after that.
Yes.
Now you add
Yes.
the layer on top of the trauma itself was about your body. And I think this is
Yes.
true when it's like size discrimination, like what we're
Hmm.
talking about, and also when it's like sexual trauma, because it's literally like
Yeah.
about your
Yeah.
body,
Hmm.
as well as a lot of like transphobic stuff ends up being about the body
Hmm.
as well. So in those cases, um, then there's like this whole other disconnect and this
Yeah.
whole other, because then you start to make the story shows up differently, and it
Yes.
gets way deeper rooted. And so
Hmm.
now it's even doubly hard, maybe even exponentially harder to come back to. Like, it
Yes.
was always going to be hard.
Yeah.
And now there's like so much, it's just swimming upstream. It's such a hard thing to do. And so reconnection in any way that allows you to do it is so important for really
Yes.
returning to a feeling of safety and groundedness. And I
Yes.
could imagine for the people that you are like, advocating for and working
Hmm.
for, that would even be like more important than the general population of people with trauma
Oh
anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's a lifeline.
Yeah.
It's a way to like engage in life again,
Right.
to like feel alive. Oh man, that's talked to so many people all the time who are afraid to even begin, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because of what you just said, of the like swimming upstream.
It's
It's
hard.
scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need an example or someone to kind of hold your hand, or
Yeah.
someone to talk you through, someone that looks like you, that can identify and empathize,
Yeah.
with the way that you're feeling. And that's power.
Mhm.
I really,
Or even
oh,
just to
no, go ahead.
represent that it's possible.
Yes.
Because I think so much of so much of what's hard about healing these kinds of things is like the despair that comes in, where you go, I guess I just am miserable forever then. Like,
Yeah.
this is life. So to see examples like you or Ash, like actually thriving in this space, actually like doing the work and seeing progress, not just like spinning your wheels and be like, I really
Hmm.
wish I felt differently. I mean, that is, I think sometimes all anybody really needs to get through the like overcoming inertia to get started part is like, this is
Yes. And
possible.
also the fact that, like you said, seeing an example, but it's also the fact that sometimes we have these parameters in our mind about what movement should be, or what this should be, or what that should
Mm.
be. And they inhibit us. Like,
Oh
for
yeah.
example, when I used to go to the gym, I would say, if I don't walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes and I haven't worked out,
Yeah.
or if I don't lift this heavy
Whoop.
today, and taking all that junk off,
Yeah.
all those rules and regulations off of what we perceive is real movement, or what we used to call exercise, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be,
For it to
it gives you
count
so
or
much
whatever.
freedom. Yeah, it
Yeah.
gives you so
Yeah.
much freedom to say, you know what, if all I really want to do today is, roll my shoulders, or,
Yeah.
just like sit and like be with myself, or
Yeah.
stretch or whatever, then I'm serving my body, and it's
Yep.
what I need, and my body knows what it needs.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I want to take this and kind of return to the fact that what you
Mhm.
set out to do, I realize like you do a lot more sort of like advocacy and consulting now.
Mhm.
But what you set out to do is really in the space of, you said pampering, right? It has
Yes.
this like luscious softness to it.
Mhm.
Not that movement necessarily has to have luscious softness, but
Yeah.
there's something about the fact that like I know a lot of people advocating for like, medical equality, right? Or like it really pushing back against massive systems of
Mhm.
oppression that are really obvious and
Mhm.
violent. I don't know that I've heard of anyone doing that, like offering not just the right to be alive,
Mhm.
and like have basic human respect, but actually to have joy, to have pleasure in this very particular way, to have like access to spaces of softness and
Yes.
um relaxation, like to me
Mhm.
that feels like something that is so unique to what you set out to do, and I
Mhm.
really hope you get to return to it at some point.
Yes. Yes.
It's so
I'm working on
beautiful.
it.
Yeah. And
I
it,
need it
it
for
does.
me.
Yeah. Of course. I love that you say it came from a selfish thing. I mean, I feel like a lot of the
Yeah.
best work does. You're like, "Oh, you know what I needed? I'm going to make that."
Yeah.
Um but so tell me about that then, because I think there's something so like tender in this idea that it almost to me feels like I'm not even going to talk about how we deserve basic rights. I mean, I realize you're doing that now, but there's
Yeah.
something about it almost feels like just so much bolder to say we deserve like luxury.
Mhm.
We deserve this this thing that is beyond just existing. It feels so badass to me.
Yeah. You think about it. You think about in the media, maybe along those lines, the perception of opulence and
Hmm.
luxury as equated to wealth and capitalism and people in small bodies and the elite and being able to
Yeah.
go to Martha's Vineyard and or to
Yes.
like a spa and like get
Yeah, yeah.
pampered or whatever. And it kind of what we're talking about, what I want to do, flies in the face of that because
Does.
um, being a fat person, like we said earlier, is like the worst case scenario, and everything of the thing that we're the thing that people try to prevent the most in these circles is being fat. It's everything that they do, the way they dress,
Yeah.
the way they eat, how they, I mean, just the vanity of it all, like,
Yeah.
and so to say that in my fat body, that the body that you are deathly afraid of becoming, I can have that too, like flies in their face. And that's not the
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
reason to do it. I mean, it's a good reason. It's not the only reason
But it
to
is
do
what
it.
I'm thinking though. It's like it feels so much more rebellious than just saying
It
we
is.
deserve basic human rights. It's like it feels like it just takes it to this incredible level. It's one of the reasons too that I love like I do follow a lot of like activism content, and sometimes it gets so heavy, and my favorite kind to see is like black joy, trans joy, fat joy, to see that being like it's obviously not always available, but it's
Yeah.
just to see that existing in the midst of it all to me feels like it's like a little bloom in a
Yeah.
freaking apocalypse, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yes. Like it is still here. It's just
Yeah.
it's such an incredible thing to see a person demand access to joy and
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah. And to demand it in a world that says I don't deserve it, especially.
Right.
And you know what? I saw a disability activist. I don't remember his name, but I saw him. He was in his wheelchair giving a talk. And he was like, it's not just about access. And it kind of speaks to what you're just saying. It's not just
Mm,
about me having the bare minimum of what I need. I want to feel welcome. I want to
yeah.
feel like this place was made for me.
Uh-huh.
I want to feel like I belong. And he was talking about, it's like, I'm glad you put a ramp in. Thanks a lot. I'm grateful
Right, right,
for
right,
it.
right.
But I want to feel like this place was made for me.
Yeah. Like in
That's
the
that's what I
basic
want.
design of the world
Yes.
that people like him were considered.
Yes.
That. like, to me, that just feels, I mean, I get like shivers thinking about it, like the world that we could build if that were taken seriously,
Yes.
the idea that, yeah, thank you for the inclusion. Thank you for the chairs that fit. Absolutely, that was needed.
Yeah.
And it's not enough.
No.
It's just step one, and there are like 100 steps here. Like,
Hmm. Hmm. And guess what? You deserve it too. We all deserve it. We all deserve this space. It's just that
yeah.
you're far more likely to get it than I am
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you are in a body that's deemed acceptable to the world.
Right.
And that's not right.
Right.
That's not
Also,
right.
gosh, that makes me think of too the idea that like a huge shift uh for a lot of men is when they realize that the patriarchy harms men too.
Yes.
Right? It's like there's this moment of like, oh, it's a women's issue and I should
Hmm.
care about it because I love
Hmm.
women, but it's I'm not personally invested. And then you go, oh, this is actually harming me. Oh, now I'm mad about it. I feel like
Exactly.
I had some of that in the beginning of learning about anti-racism stuff when I
Hmm.
discovered all of these incredible authors that I was never given to read in high school. And I was so angry, like on my own behalf. This was like not even, I was not coming from like an activism place yet. I was just pissed that I had been
Yeah.
like gate kept some of the most incredible writers. And that was where I really think things started to shift of like, I am no longer, it wasn't like a favor anymore to
Yeah.
dismantle racism. I was like,
Hmm.
maybe it's wrong that this is what got me in, but it was one of those turning points. And I feel like we can do a similar thing here with weight that like
Yeah.
nobody is winning in a world that
Mm-mm.
makes infinifat people feel not included. Literally, everybody's body image is horrible. Everybody's
Hmm.
relationship to food and exercise is horrible. Like, even if you live in a thin body and you have a chair, you are being hurt by this. Like,
Yes.
nobody is winning.
Yep. Sabrina Strings talks about that in her book, Fear in the Black
Love
Body.
her book. Yeah.
And you know how she was talking about, the origins of fat phobia are racist, right?
Yes.
And so now you have fat phobia. So our society is so entrenched, in these Western European,
Yeah.
ideals. So everybody's getting it,
Oh,
you
I
know,
know.
for because of fat phobia.
Yeah. Yep.
Everybody's suffering from an issue that began with racist tropes and ideas
Yeah.
about fat people or rather black people being fat
Yeah.
and overeating and amoral and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so now fat white women are getting,
Yeah.
anybody with a body is
Mm-hmm.
suffering from fat phobia because of what you just said.
Yeah.
This ideal that I have to look and be a certain way
That a
and
certain way
wear
is
this.
better, inherently better. Like, that
Yes.
will not let anybody win.
Nope, never.
Because
Never. And the
even if
reason
you
why
have it, you're afraid.
yeah, and I say, if I advocate for infinite fat people, just like Saucy West was talking about the fight for inclusivity in clothing, like being able to buy clothes, like with larger fat body, if you're saying you make clothes for everyone and you go up to a 3X, right? Or you say you want to make clothes for the largest bodies. If you make clothes for me and I'm a 6 or 7, 8X, and you make clothes for everybody that's smaller than me, then there's access for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, how does
Yeah.
that hurt? If I
Right.
want a seat that's bigger, right, that's larger or wider, anybody can sit in that seat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I
Mm-hmm.
can sit in it too. Whereas
Right.
before the seats were smaller, obviously, and that means that there are a lot of people excluded from being able to use it. It
Right.
won't
Right.
ever hurt. It will
Exactly.
only help
Oh,
to
that's
make
such a
things more
great point.
accessible.
By the way, I identify as non-binary, so I've been
Uh-huh.
like searching for brands that are sort of gender fuckery
Oh
that
yeah.
I enjoy. But I do feel like it's something I see a lot is in these brands who are so dedicated to inclusivity and like progressive values that they're
Mhm.
still not going up past maybe 2, maybe 3X.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't know that I've ever seen in any of these brands what you're talking about. And that is like, I mean, I'm trying to shop the businesses that are ethical and doing the work, like that's
Yeah.
God, that's
Smart
says a
Glamour,
lot.
Smart Glamour has no cap on their sizes. They were the first
Smart
that I
glamour.
know of. Connolly McDougal, made the dress I'm wearing right now. Actually, this was not planned, but we just happened to be talking about it. They have infinite sizing, so there are a few
Oh, that's cool.
companies starting to do it little by
Amazing.
little. And it's amazing. And there's a varying, like price range or whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
that's another, level of accessibility that's needed, because a lot of people who are InfiniFat don't make a lot of money, right? So we need
Right,
to be able to get
right,
clothes that we can actually afford that isn't
right.
fast fashion. So it's
Yeah.
like all these different needs that are kind of like
And frankly, you
happening
should be
based.
able to buy like couture too. I mean, we've
I
got
mean,
like
yeah.
like it
I
should
mean,
go the
yeah.
whole range, right? Like,
Yes.
oh
Yes.
my
We just
gosh.
need more options
Yeah.
in the range.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask. So you wrote for me, you told your story basically
Mhm.
to my audience in your blog post. It was very much like the story of weight stigma and your health and the toll that weight stigma and weight discrimination have had on your body. And you
Mhm.
mentioned to me that you'd gotten a lot of feedback. It really seemed to like hit a nerve. So I wanted to hear just a little bit about the kind of feedback you got and why you think it hit a nerve like that.
There are a lot of people like me, especially Black women. I didn't mean to start crying. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
um, I found out there's a term for it today. It's called weathering. I had no idea it was a term for it, but there are a lot of fat Black women who have broken hearts. And a
Oh,
lot of them have reached out to me and they told me about their mothers and their sisters.
got
My
it.
mother died from congestive heart failure. And I'll talk about that in the article, but there's this thing that happens and I'm hearing about it a lot. And it sounds so silly, but when maybe you're in college or like whenever you bought a new car and you never noticed the car before, but all of a sudden when you get it, you see like a whole lot of cars that are like your car, like all
Yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah.
It's like lately, this has really been heavy on my mind, especially since the passing of my mom. And so many people, not just with that article, but have come to me and say, hey, I lost my mom. And the thing is, just kind of like with lipedema, I lost a friend lately that had lipedema. And because the doctor looked at her and said, you're just fat, like no, no
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
investigation or treatment or whatever. She passed. Um, when a person has high blood pressure or heart disease, the assumption is you're too fat, you eat the wrong food, whatever. There are a lot of things. And so
Yeah.
we don't get the treatment that we need.
Right.
Oh, couple that with the fact that a lot of our moms are single moms and under a lot of
Mm,
pressure.
yeah.
We don't get paid enough money. There's so much dysfunction in our homes. So a lot of times
Yeah.
there's relationship issues and toxicity, and we just bear a lot. Racism, I mean, I haven't even started
Yeah.
to talk about that. And oppression in our workplaces, difficulty with, being perceived as aggressive or mean when we're just
Right.
like literally trying to survive. And
Mhm.
a lot of people identified with the things that I was saying and the experiences that I shared. And it's just something has to give. And I think that's another reason why I do what I do,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I can't redeem time. Like I can't make up for time. But I want to, if there's anybody who's just beginning the process or the journey to like loving themselves and their body, I want them to know the things that I didn't know, and I want them
Yeah.
to perceive and understand and really, really not just love themselves, but know who they are, know their purpose, know the value that they have and the
Yeah.
value of their humanity and all their uniqueness and the gifts that they have, and how much more all those things are important than their weight or how
Yeah.
they look or
Yeah.
how much money they have or anything, you know. answers to questions about relationships and all the
Yeah.
things that kind of contribute to the stress and the strain that we experience, the systematic issues. Like, we can't fight it all at one time, but there are things that
Right.
we can do
Oh,
little by little in community and being able to relate in empathy and support. Um,
I'm like so
I'm
happy
so
that
glad
you
I,
wrote it, but I'm also like just hearing all of that is
yeah,
devastating.
yeah, yeah. And so joy, finding joy, um, I do it with abandon because I'm doing it for my life. I'm doing it for their lives. I have to fight to be free. We all have to fight to be free. And until we can, there's so much darkness.
Yeah.
And I'm not being fake positive. I'm like, if you
Oh, I
want to
know.
survive, we have to create community. We
Yes.
have to tell each other the truth. We have to cheer each other on. We have to not straddle the fence, and know these things and not act on them. Like, we can't just keep learning and learning and learning and not doing. It's not about intention, it's about actual impact,
Mm.
and what you're going to do about it. I get so tired, and I mean, no disrespect, but I get so tired of white women saying all these things about what they believe, and the things I could tell you about what I know that white women have done
Mm.
to Black women that I know, that I love
Mm-hmm.
in these circles, in this
Mm-hmm.
arena, in fat liberation, in body liberation, for the sake of capitalism and white supremacy. I have seen my friends, I almost lost a friend. She called me screaming, crying because she didn't think she was going to hold on
Oh.
because these women stole her work,
Oh.
stole her work. And she can't even talk about it because she doesn't have money. She can't get
To
sued. Like,
fight.
what do you
Yeah.
even do?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the stuff that we deal with. This is what kills us in this
Yeah.
world. And I have to talk about it. And I know people get so angry. I have had people threaten me. Somebody emptied one of my friends' bank account. Like, I've had to go and put remove like my information from the internet because somebody went to my friend's house and took aerial pictures with a drone
The F
because they hate her so much.
for existing in a fat body.
This is the stuff that we deal with,
Yeah.
and it
Damn,
can't
Angel.
be.
I am so sorry that you have experienced that. I understand why it would be so much more wounding in the circles who sort of say they're doing better. I mean, that's
There's
horrible.
immeasurable harm being done.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Immeasurable.
sharing it here and sharing it just in general. I mean, it's incredible what you're doing. I support your work so much. Um,
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to.
no, God, don't be. This is like
Because I did.
literally everything. This is exactly what I want. This is what I want people to hear. This is the kind of conversation I personally want to have. So thank you for
Yeah.
being vulnerable enough to like share it with me. I was impressed when you wrote the
Mhm.
post as well, that you're really I feel very trusted to hold this story
This is
and
all
to
real
share it.
stuff. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
like, I see performance every day. I know performance.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
Like, I
Fair enough.
can't. This is who I am. This is what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And I need more people to be true
Mm-hmm.
about who they are and what
So,
they mean, not what they say.
mm-hmm.
I need more people to like do it. If you're putting the labels on and you're making money because you can say, put all the terms out and the jargon,
Yeah.
and you got degrees and letters behind your name, that's beautiful. But what are you doing? What are you
So
doing?
for the sake of time, I wanted to ask about gig fat, but if you have enough time to answer this, I'd like to actually throw down a
Okay,
question to that as well,
okay.
which is, uh, is there something you would want to say directly to the many white women in the body positivity, body liberation, or like intuitive eating kind of, eating disorder healing space? Because I'm hearing, and I'm like agreeing and cheering, but I think it would be more powerful with detail. And I don't want to put that labor on you right now to
No,
like
no,
come
I
up
already
with an
did the
answer.
labor. Actually, I
Okay.
just did a post.
Okay,
I
then
just did a
then if you
post.
want to speak to them or us, me,
Yes.
speak to me, I mean that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am that, right? So
Yeah.
I'd love to open that up.
What I want to see is real representation, because fat liberation and even body positivity originated with women of color who were striving to get free. I want, and we're still not free, right? We still don't have the privilege or the access or anything that we need. What I want people to do who have privilege, whether it's Black, light skin privilege,
Mm,
people that are more privileged than a fat Black person like me, what I want to see is you diversify your feed. I want to see
mm,
you do more than promote what you do. I know you have to make money, right? But if you're saying this is what you believe in, and you have to find a balance, you have to diversify. You have to show, if you really want to serve a diverse group of people, if that's what you really want to do and you want to bring access, you have to show it. Be that
mm,
example, right? And then make it happen and bring people in. Pay Black fat people, you know, center them, defer to them,
mm,
because we can tell you what we need if it's us that you really want to serve. If it's not, and you do want to just build your business and put the words out there and promote yourself, then say that,
mm.
right? But don't pretend, because we can see what you're doing. It's an
Right.
insult. I'm not talking about you. I'm saying I'm saying in
Well, you also
general.
kind of are. I'm trying to like hear it without separating myself from it, because I
Yeah.
am not someone who, and I was actually going to ask you this little follow-up question here.
Uh-huh.
Just put myself on full vulnerability to my audience. But I wanted to ask, so because something that I have understood a lot in anti-racism work particularly, but I think it applies to sort of all liberation work, is the idea of sort of tokenism and how diversifying is often performative, and it is often just done to sort of signal something to make the person look better, right? So I think that I've pretty much stopped doing what I would have been doing, which is just like, so I mean, I repost people's in the stories,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like what you're talking about. I'm like, I don't know how to do that in the same space that I am just creating my own work. So like, how do you know the difference? Maybe that's the question.
Well, you did it when you asked me to write on your blog, or when I asked you, I kind of like came into your just
You
came and
did,
said, I
but I
want to
loved
write for
it.
you.
Oh my God. I love that. I was like, you just made
But
my life so
you
much
did
easier.
that. I mean, did that feel authentic to you?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's it. You know,
Mm,
you know what's authentic to you, and you know the message you want to get across.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
feel
Okay.
tokenized. I felt like you were like,
Understood.
my people need to hear this.
Yeah. So I think there's something too. It's such an interesting thing because, like, when you say, bringing that stuff in, I feel like me anyway, and I think so many other people, it feels like now I have to rush to prove something.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, not posting on Instagram the way that I had once done really felt like I'm not going to prove this anymore unless it feels really, really like it's coming from
Mm-hmm.
that place for me. And so this is a way that I can do that. And there are other ways that I do that as well. But like, I actually feel like the performative thing was such a turnoff to me. I felt
Mm-hmm.
so icky about the potential of it feeling that way to anybody that I feel like I've given this just an extraordinary amount of thought of like what
Mm-hmm.
is the right way to use my privilege and my platform to fight for liberation for everyone, which means fighting for liberation of the most marginalized. So I mean, it obviously like makes me feel good to hear that, but way more importantly, I think it's just a good example for anybody who does this kind of work and is listening. Like that there are other ways that are not performative that maybe people don't even necessarily see and go, oh, good for you, you're doing the thing, but actually does feel like the right direction.
The other thing is that, and I get this, I have a service that I provide where
I was
I'll
going to
take a
ask you about that
person's
too.
business and I'll just like eat it up and say, I'm going through your social media, I'm looking at your website. This does not look welcoming to a person like me. You're a trainer. I don't see myself,
Yeah.
right? I pick through it,
Yeah. I love
and
that.
and people have come back to me with that, I don't want to be performative. And I get it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But the thing is that icky place that you feel, you
Yeah.
got to sit in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's the alternative?
Just ignoring it and caring about your business and not helping anybody. Yeah. I mean,
You have to be able to process.
I agree. Absolutely. I love that you do that. And I wrote down, I wanted to ask, so I read through all your consulting
Uh,
offers. One being like InfiniFat accessibility and inclusivity, which to me felt like a little bit more of like in real life stuff, but it sounds like you're
yes,
also doing a digital version of
I
basically the
am.
same thing, right?
Yeah.
So I was going to say, who should hire you?
White people.
Love
No,
it.
seriously. Um, I've my clients now are like fitness and stuff, whatever, movement, purposeful movement instructors.
Uh-huh.
Um, I can do anybody where you sell clothes. If you're a therapist, somebody told me the other day that I could
Oof.
like kind of sit in with therapists and just like kind of like listen to their language and like help them kind of form if they have people who are fat that they're working with and they have
Yeah.
some like questions about terminology or how they're talking to them that I can just observe. I can do all that stuff. The thing is that if you want me to do it, and I said this on a recent post, be prepared because I'm going to challenge you. And then I offer to help you. Like
Yeah.
I offer to help you, like actually I have a client right now, Power Up
Yeah.
Movement Company. The person that I do the move and sit and the dancing, she's an example, right? She was in that icky place
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, I'm just going to do it, So I'm partnering with her now. I told her I did a whole like breakdown of her business and what she was doing and gave her a rating and said, these are my recommendations. And then if you want me to help you take the next step
Yeah. Yeah.
and actually bring those
Implement.
recommendations to life, I'll do that. And I'm doing it. Like I'm our
Oh my
partner now.
gosh.
You know what I'm saying?
This is such a cool offer to anybody who is listening. I mean, sacredspaceforfatbodies.org. Is that your website?
Yes.
And I'll link to this in the show notes too. But if you go over to consulting services, it's all there. I feel that you are asking for far less money than you are worth for these prices that you listed. But I also just feel like what an incredible opportunity, as you kind of wrote in it, is like to get the eyes of a disabled Black InfiniFat person. Like there is so much about your experience that can
Mhm.
benefit any company, any brand. And
Yes.
often they don't get the opportunity because anybody who maybe would have that perspective would just probably bounce off their page, right? And go, oh,
Yes.
this is for me.
Yeah.
So to actually get the opportunity to have you go through it like that detailed way is just amazing.
The other thing is I was a beach body coach. I
Oh
really
my
was.
gosh. I didn't see
Yes.
that coming.
I know. I know. So I've done it all. Like I know
Sure.
the mindset and the mentality and the sweaty pics and all that type of stuff.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? I understand that. And if somebody wants to do the work to like make that shift and to move into a more inclusive, accommodating space,
Yeah.
that's what I can help them do.
Amazing. Okay. So before we finish up here, I want to ask about Gig Fat and hear your upcoming project, right?
Yes,
Tell me about
yes.
it.
So when I was telling you earlier about the person who had her work taken from her, and shopped at something like they did or whatever. She was kind of like the impetus for me to like get this going. And even in my own lived experience, oh my gosh, the stress and strain and the heart issues and all the things that come with working in a corporate environment
Yeah.
are overwhelming, especially for a person in a fat, super fat or infinite fat body
Yeah.
who has to try to figure out how to maneuver in corporate capitalist spaces. So I want to give people an option to be able to work, in a way that honors them, in a way that is not harmful. So there will be definite, I guess, vetting or something like that for people who are going to be offering the jobs, because I don't want to put people right back in the same scenario, right? So I want people to have a really clear understanding of the types of people that we want to offer jobs to these people. And then the people are people like myself who are, career corporate, people who have a lot of lived experience and education, who are creatives, who are artists that can do commissions or whatever it is that they do. Oof. And kind of matching these people up.
I love that.
So that everybody has a clear understanding of what's going on. And with the caveat that, gosh, if you harm people and you're deemed harmful, people have to know that you're harmful. That's the step, because I can't.
Will there be a rating system like on Uber? I don't want to scare
people off, but this makes me, being able to say that and share that makes me know that anybody who participates is going to have to get it. And have done the work.
Oh man, I feel like this is so brilliant, because there's a lot of people that I know who really want to put their money where their mouth is, but like if you just randomly go on the internet and say any fat black queer, like I love that you're actually like making it so easy for people who want to be like, hiring folks in marginalized bodies to be able to do so in this way. I think it's brilliant. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, Angel, tell people where they can find more of you. I am going to link to your blog post probably in the notes, as well as your website, which, by the way, I wanted to mention, there's this photo of you on your site in like a red bathing suit, I think. Is it that?
No, that's not me.
Oh, is it not?
Like a stock photo or something.
Oh, no way. Okay. Well, I was scrolling through and it felt so joyful. And I was like, oh, that's, I guess I also didn't know what you looked like when I looked at your website.
Oh, right.
Well, I guess, I did from Instagram. Anyway, it was such a joyful photo and it just made me so happy. But yeah. Okay. So tell everybody where they can find you.
I live on IG. So it's Sacred Space for Fat Bodies on IG. SS4FB, I think, on Twitter, but I never go on there. So it's just probably on IG under Sacred Space for Fat Bodies. My website will be linked, sacredspaceforfatbodies.org. I'm on TikTok under Sacred Space for Fat Bodies. And
are you? I got to get on there.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm not with it yet.
Yeah. I offer every Monday a dance and sit class through Power Up Movement Co. And that's on Instagram as well, powerupmovement.co. That's what it's called. And every Monday, you'll see it on my page, under Sacred Space.
Perfect.
And it's linked in my bio. And all we do is sit and jam out. And I'm telling you, you think it's just going to be, they're just dancing. No, we get down. My clothes were drenched last time. I was happy because I don't play around. I love to dance.
Yeah.
But it's for people who enjoy movement and enjoy dance, but don't want to feel like you got to stand up and, be uncomfortable. You can come as you are. You can do it in your car, do it on your lunch break, whatever. It's Mondays at noon. We might add some more classes for evening because we've had some demand for the evening time, which I know would be better, but it's a work in progress. But I would love to have anybody that wants to
come. And is that like done on Instagram, like an Instagram Live?
It's done on Zoom.
Oh, it's done. Oh, okay. So like they would sign up for it basically on Instagram.
Yes.
And okay, got it.
You can. It's like $1, $5, $10, or whatever you want.
Yeah. This is amazing.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here and talking to me. This was such a delicious conversation for me personally. This is why I wanted guests. I did like one season of just solo podcast episodes because that's what I could definitely schedule and get done. But this is what I was looking for. I loved this conversation, and I'm so glad that you exist and that you came on and that I met you. So thank you for being here. And to everybody who's listening, I will link all that stuff, and you know where to find me on Instagram at Jessie Nealand and jessienealand.com. And I will catch you next week.